Hi everybody, welcome to Bike Revs. I'm Mark, and last week I was at Motorcycle Live at the NEC Birmingham. This is the largest bike show in Britain and features all of the major suppliers showing us their very latest and greatest creations. There are also places to buy things with a massive merch area, bike demos and have a go areas, but really it's all about the bikes, or at least that's why I go. Now, I wasn't sure how many people would be there. Certainly forums and chat groups suggested that many people weren't bothering because of the £12.50 parking was too outrageously expensive, or tickets at 23 quid, whatever they were, just to look around a showroom weren't worth it. Well, I'm glad that people like that live here in the UK because it was ram-packed full enough without them. Around midday on Saturday, you could barely move around, and I even managed to kick somebody in the head whilst climbing on an adventure bike, for which I can only apologise. Now, the show was fabulous, and we spent the whole day there once we got through the traffic queue, parking, and a long walk to the exhibition halls. This year was slightly unusual for me because I'm genuinely thinking about swapping out my bike for something new. Now, I love what I have, but it's coming up to a 20,000 mile service, its first MOT, which is the annual bike inspection for those of you outside of the UK, and it will need a couple of tyres soon as well. So instead of spending a whole heap of cash on the existing bike, what shall I buy instead? Well, whilst I can only have one bike, I do like the naked sport style. I'll probably go for something in the £10,000 to £12,000 range, and there's loads of choice, particularly if I was to buy something with a few hundred miles on the clock so that it's thousands of pounds cheaper, kind of like what I did with my wife's 125. Now, just before I crack on and talk about bikes proper, let me just say that this absolute biking legend was there. And he is, of course, my mate Dave, and he's been riding bikes since the 1970s. He's also a trained engineer, so he's dead useful to have around. And at this point, he's chatting to another bloke called Peter Hickman, who apparently also rides a bike. But the point is, Dave was with me all day and will be my model for most of the shots. I wasn't just stalking some random bloke on my own. So from the show, my favourite money no object bikes included the Ducati Street Fighter V4S in all its gorgeous forms. Although, to be fair, every Ducati I sat on felt amazing. They're just so good and well put together. But they do, of course, come at a price where I can't imagine getting sign-off from the budget holder, if you know what I mean. Same goes for MV Augusta. I mean, who wouldn't want to rock up at a bike meet on one of these? Anyway, back to reality and things that I can afford, and we started off at Suzuki. That new 8S is definitely top of the list for my missus. I personally like the GSX S1000, but really, I've said it before, and this is going to be a common theme today, but those headlights are awful. They alone would put me off. Now, the GSX S1000 GT, however, was a real treat. I like that a lot. I may have to test ride one, although much like the Ninja 1000, it's probably too big for what I need 99% of the time. Imagine touring on it though, it's beautiful, and as an added bonus I can actually put my feet on the floor. Now, I have to say that on the face of it, I think I prefer the Suzuki to the Ninja. I mean, crikey, I'm going to lose my Kawasaki license at this rate. Best we move on. So Kawasaki was next, and I ran to the stand like an excited young child running downstairs on Christmas morning. And there it was, the new 2024 Z900. Or was it? Well, you see, it looked exactly the same as the old model, and after 15 minutes of playing Spot the Difference, I had to call a member of the team over. He assured me that this was indeed the new model, but he didn't really know enough about it to tell me anything or tell me what had changed. I've compared pictures, and I still don't know if I was looking at the old model or the new one. It's exactly the same. Now, I have to admit, I do like that red colour scheme, which I think is part of the 2024 scheme, but what would be the point in selling a bike and spending all that hard-earned for something which looks the same? Okay, it might be a bit lighter or something along those lines, but it's a real hard sell to anyone who's already got a Z900. So perhaps the SE model would be a better choice, but it only comes in this black and green option, which I'm really not a fan of. Other Kawasaki's I've seen many times before. The Z900 RS got another good sitting on, but with my small stature, I find the saddle on them really wide and too uncomfortable. That aside, it's easily the best in its class. It's just not the one for me though. Then there were the Ninja 1000s, which I've already test ridden, so you can go and see that vid on this channel. But again, I don't think they're really for me. Now, despite my Z900 disappointment, the Kawasaki stand, I have to say, is an example of how to present motorbikes. It was by far and away the most impressive stand of the show, so well done to the team there. Also, they gave me a free suite, with Kawasaki written all the way through it, a sticker and a pen. So I'm easily pleased in some respects, but I've got to tell you, that was the only stand I found that was giving away freebies. Oh yeah, and on their stand they also had some electric bikes, but yeah, enough about that. From Kawasaki, we went to Honda, and again, I was very excited to see the new CB1000 Hornet. On paper, a four-cylinder Z900 killer with lots more HP, CC, and everything else. However, I got there, took one look at the Hornet, and said rather too loudly to Dave, "Oh, this is rather boring." And the man from Honda was stood next to us, and he heard me, so he rolled his eyes and just walked off. Again, I can only apologise, but it really was a rather dull bike. There was only one. It was presented in black and white. It had no price tag, and I'll tell you what it looked like. Imagine that you're a beautiful Ducati Street Fighter, but you put on a few pounds and started to sag through lockdown. Well, the Hornet is what you look like coming out the other side of it. Just look at this massive chunk. And I'm not talking about what's on the bike, but the actual exhaust pipe. There's no need for anything that size. Honda seem to be concentrating on their off-road section, and those bikes are amazing, all of them. But the street bikes, well, meh, not for me. And I'm disappointed because I loved my CB500 and I had great expectations for the 1000. So I left with a heavy heart and headed for the next stand. Okay, so I wasn't expecting too much from KTM. I mean, okay, they make some of the most fantastic bikes on the market, but I've sat on them and never thought I could spend more than 10 minutes in the saddle. But then the Juke 990 appeared around the corner. Oh my, that is a very nice looking bike, and sitting on it felt like I belonged. So there we have it, a clear winner, except for one thing. Have you guessed it yet? Well, look at that front light. Never has anything more ugly graced this planet. Well, okay, maybe it's twin brother, the Predator, if that was real, or maybe one of those caterpillars. And you know what? There's only one or two in the range that has this light. I mean, what the heck's going on? Now, despite some ugly front lights, overall the KTM range was very impressive, and we liked it so much we went back several times for another look around their stand. But off to the next stand, and this time it's Yamaha. Once again, I was brimming over with excitement to see the new MT9 with its new front end, and they seem to have finally nailed it. It's very nice. I mean, really nice. I can't actually fault it. The price is great, the extras on it are great, the lights are okay now, the dash is improved, and the ride position has made the whole bike look more aggressive. Now, this is how you upgrade to the latest model. Take note, Kawasaki. So just while we're on the topic of Yamaha, I also took the opportunity to sit on an MT10, and I've got to say that felt remarkably similar to an MT09. It didn't feel like the massive lump that I thought it was going to be, so that would be a tough call. Would you go for an MT09 or for a few grand more an MT10? Well, that's a really difficult one. I'm not sure. Perhaps the MT10 is just too much bike for what I need, and obviously there's a cost implication to all that. So well, I'm not really sure. But either way, the one thing is you've got to put up with a terrible paint scheme. I mean, who rides a bike with light turquoise wheels? Anyway, so far in the show, the MT09 has been the clear winner in the light heavyweight section. So now, with that in mind, it's time to go over to Triumph. I have to say that Triumph get more and more impressive every year. And as much as I appreciate the Tigers, the Scramblers and the Bobbers, my obvious first call is to the Street Triple 765 RS, which, other than having too many parts to its name, is an absolutely beautiful bike. Now, I know my mate Adam from Sweet Triple is probably nursing a semi right now, and if you want to see a full review of this great bike, head over to his channel and have a look now. But back to the bike, and it felt great. It looked great. The brakes, suspension, dash and other toys come as standard, and they are the best amongst all of its rivals. The price is a little bit more at just over £11,000, but then compare that to an SE version of a Z900 or an SP version of an MT09, and it's on point. Now this really is a good bike. Any issues? Well, I kind of feel like I'm going the wrong way. From a bike with just under 1000cc to one with 765. I know it's childish, but I kind of thought I was heading beyond 1 litre whilst I can still get my leg over. And actually, to that end, luckily the Speed Triple was there next to it. So the Speed Triple RR is way too uncomfortable with its clip-on handlebars, but the RS version is out of this world. Okay, so the 1200 has way more power than I need, but as the old adage goes, it's better to be a cage fighter in a library than a librarian in a cage fight. Now, Dave also voted this his favourite affordable bike and kept saying how he couldn't believe 1200cc was packed into such a lightweight and tidy bike. I myself would be hard pushed to choose between the Speed Triple RS and the Street Triple RS. A quick look on Auto Trader and I can get a street with a couple of 100 miles on it for 10k, or a speed with about 3k on it and just a year old for about the same price. So I'm going to have to go and ride them both and decide which one I like best. So my conclusion, the show was great. Don't listen to the haters. And for my personal bike journey and what's next, well, if this was my first big bike, then probably a Z900 for an uncomplicated, great value powerhouse with 4 cylinders. But as I say, I've been there, I've done that, so perhaps my next bike might well be a Triumph, just because they have so much more character than their Japanese rivals. However, the MT9 can no longer be ignored with its new facelift. Perhaps that Hornet could be in the running, but it would need to be about £10,000 brand new, and I doubt that's going to happen. Also, if the Z900 SE was available in something other than seeping green, it might be back in the running as the cool 4-cylinder option. Oh, the choices. 2024 is going to be a very interesting year, and I've only really just covered the street bikes. So what's your favourite in this category of light heavyweight street bikes? Have I missed anything? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and whatever you're riding, which hopefully you still are during the winter, keep your chain oiled, and I'll see you soon.